Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a little unboxing of the FN509. I'm also going to install an Apex trigger on it, attempt to, because I've heard these are kind of hard to do, and install a Holosun red dot on it. So let's jump into it. Alright, so I just got the FN509. It's my first FN. This one's very similar to the Tactical. It's already got the optics. It's optics ready, suppressor height sights, but it doesn't have that big weird plastic sight shield that comes on the Tactical. Came with all the optic mounting stuff, some instructions, your handbook. We'll install that red dot first and then attempt to install that Apex trigger. So it comes with these instructions on which plate out of the package you're supposed to use for which red dot you're installing. You find the plate, the insert, and the screw set for that specific red dot. So I'm going to pull those out and get them ready to go. Alright, so I got my plate, my insert, and the screws I'm going to need. We'll start pulling this thing apart. So screws aside, pull off the plate and the insert. Got a little O-ring right here. Supposed to remove. I'll wipe off some of this lubrication they got in there. Okay. O-ring goes in. New MRD plate. The mounting plate goes on there. I got another 507C. I like these red dots like I've told you in the past. So for this trigger install, there's a pin that goes right here. That is a bitch to get out. Supposedly FN doesn't recommend you work on your own gun. I bought this Apex Action Enhancement Kit for it. Apex has a good video on their website showing how to get the pin out. They even have a jig they've made. But supposedly there's horror stories of people breaking their frames or breaking punches, doing all sorts of damage. I didn't show it on camera, but I pulled that out previously. It wasn't too bad. I used a sturdy punch that I had in the toolbox for woodworking and stuff like that. And it's a lot stouter than these that come in like an armorer's kit. So I got it started with that one, finished it off with my normal punch, and it came out. Yeah, it was a little bit tougher than a normal pin, but it came out pretty easily. You're also supposed to take these out from right to left and put them in opposite. So we'll pull out these other pins. Okay, so our locking block already flopped out. And takedown lever and spring. We'll remove this slide stop. Pull this back rail section out, along with the factory trigger bar. This thing comes in two pieces, so I'm making sure I hold it solid so parts and pieces don't go everywhere. So that's a little enhanced here that we got to change out. There's the Apex one. Has their Apex logo on the top. Factory one. I think the main difference is this little drop leg that comes down is shaped a little different. So we'll set that factory one aside. I know it looks confusing. We'll go over how to put all this stuff back together. Alright, so to start, we're going to take that new Apex here, kind of flip it upside down, get the little sear spring, and it's going to go right in this little hole that's on the side, that little dog leg. Might be easier if I grab it with a pair of needle nose and kind of feed that in there. like that. Next step, we're going to take this, I'm not sure what it's called, sear carrier. The shorter leg goes in the middle of the sear between the spring and the sear itself. We're going to take one of these pins, go through that, through the sear, and make sure we go through and capture the spring. Like so. Now that we got that in there, next thing we need to do is get this leg of this sear underneath this little lip right here. That will tension up the spring. So we're going to pull this pin out just barely so we can push that off center of the hole a little bit and get it locked up underneath there. And then we'll push this pin back through. So it's locked up underneath that little lug, and now that has tension on it. Now we'll take our sear housing, grab this other pin, put it in part way, take our little coil spring, around that pin, and push that pin through. We want that coil spring facing back or towards that lug that we put the sear underneath. Now we'll set this in the right side of our sear housing. It has an R on it for right. It also has the two smaller holes, where this one has the ejector on it and has a larger hole. It's also labeled with an L. So we're going to drop these two pins, right in these grooves, and this little dog leg that sticks out is going to go in that recess right there. Like so. Now we'll grab the left side and marry it back up with the right side, making sure those pins go in the proper spot, and these also have little tits that stick up that lock into the other side. Like so. I'll keep pressure on this, holding it together. And we're going to take our little spring pin. This goes, the easiest way to do this, let me see if I can show it. That sear housing towards the back. Get this pin through our spring and bridge across both sides of that. Make sure you keep this thing held together so it doesn't fall apart. Now we're going to take this cam, put the cam spring on it, and the flat part goes towards the top. So as you can see, it's got that groove. This flat part goes towards the slide. So this, all while holding this together, I'm going to slide this in the opening. Let's see if I can spin this. Push down on this sear and push this in until it locks. And that'll capture that. Capture that in there. Then we'll take our little clip. Once we clip that back on, it'll hold everything together. So now it's ready to go back in the gun. Now we're going to put the trigger bar back onto this modified sear housing. So I'll take this new Apex trigger bar, slide it on one side, and flex that trigger bar just enough to get it over so it grabs the other side. Square up that pin. Now we're ready to put the whole thing back in the frame. Now we got that seated back in there. I'm going to put our rear pin in first. That's the roll pin. And like I mentioned, we took it out from right to left. We're going to put it back in left to right. Take our locking block. That spring tail is going to go on the inside. Push it in as far as we can, making sure that spring stays on the inside. I'll slowly pull my pin out with down pressure on the block so it snaps down into place. Like so. And you'll see our spring on the inside right here. Now we can put our pin in from the other side. Okay, now I'm going to get my last pin, the one that's a pain in the ass to get out. Pain in the ass going in too. I'm going to move this over to the vise and finish it off. Alright, finally got that pin back in. Sorry, it was kind of a pain in the ass, but I got it back in. Now we'll take our takedown lever. It's got this little groove on it that'll intersect with our spring. So we'll put that in there and then spin this thing counterclockwise. And keep spinning till that thing locks in. Spring will hold it up, pull it down, that spring will take it right back up. So now we can put our slide back on. Make sure everything works. Looks like it's working good. I want to throw our trigger pull gauge back on it and see how it pulls. .0. 5.2. So we dropped, I don't know, a little over half a pound. So the take up has drastically improved. That's the brake. And it resets pretty quick. Also gets rid of that hinge trigger design. It's horrible. So let's jump back up off the bench and check it out. Alright, so we got everything finished up. Mounted that Holosun 507C. Put in that Apex trigger. That pin was kind of a pain in the ass, and I would suggest watching Apex's video on how to install that trigger. They got a lot of good info, and they're better camera work than I am. They get nice close-ups, show you how everything goes. I watched it a couple times, to be honest with you, but it helped me out quite a bit. This thing comes with the tall sights, suppressor height sights, so it's co-witnessing a lot easier. So yeah, I think that thing turned out pretty good. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and we'll check you on the next one.